G'day, I'm Kitty. Welcome to Fairy Encounters. The power of folklore is so often overlooked. My thoughts have turned lately to cultural identity, about what it is that makes a people unique. What makes a people fight fiercely to protect their land and their culture? Some of the things which shape and define a people is their connection to the natural world, their unique landscape, and of course their faith, their family values, and their generational folklore, the old tales, those told and retold down the generations from parents to their children over hundreds of years. From the earliest age, folklore teaches us about our land, our ancestors, who we are, and where we belong. I'd love to share with you today some fairy and folklore from Ukraine, a strong and immensely brave people who treasure their land, their identity, and their culture. So get yourself nice and comfy. We're going to look at 5 fascinating fairy creatures from Ukrainian lore. And I'll ask you in advance to please forgive me if I do mispronounce any words. Let's kick off with the enigmatic Mavka. Mavkas are ethereal spirits known for their enchanting beauty and enthralling aura. These qualities, though, mask a bitter secret. Mavkas are said to be the souls of girls who died tragic, unjust, or premature deaths, or unchristened babies. Mavkas are intrinsically linked to water and forests, and these places are where they are found. You see, she draws her power from water, earth, and trees. Mavkas are believed to live in groups in forests and in mountain caves, which they decorate with many rugs, so they are far from solitary. Mavka are believed to lure attractive men into their forest home, and once in their thrall, this person is vulnerable to the whim of the Mavka. She has the power to influence emotions, often evoking feelings of joy, abandon, or even ecstasy, and then, in a blanket act of retributive justice, she tickles her victim to death. Yes, tickles. It's an unusual punishment, isn't it? But perhaps one which the victim does not object to or even defend themselves against. Well, to understand how a man might follow the Mavka into the depths of a forest and allow himself to be tickled to death, let's talk about her appearance. She is tall, with long hair gently cascading over her shoulders. She smiles at the man and beckons him to come closer, come closer. And if this isn't captivating enough, she often appears naked. Phew! But if you're able to keep your wits about you long enough to resist her, there are ways of identifying a Mavka. Mavkas have no reflection in water. They do not cast shadows. And in some cases, at least, they have no back. Literally, they have no back. So their internal organs are revealed. They can be seen. And this is said to symbolize their connection to the natural world. So the question is why she does this. Why does the Mavka lure men into her forest home? Well, we find that there is no single reason. The Mavka will take vengeance upon anyone who harms or destroys the trees and the flowers or the waters in her forest or mountain home. But she will specifically target men who have wronged a woman, a man who has dishonoured or falsely accused a woman, or worse, killed a woman or an unchristened child. But it's not all bad. There are accounts of Mavkas holding some neighbouring farmers in high regard on account of how well they treat their animals and the natural world, and in particular, how they treat her forest. Now, they are known to help these farmers by looking after their cattle and driving away wild animals. Mavkas make thread of stolen flax and weave thin, transparent cloth for making clothes for themselves. They love flowers, which they wear in their hair, and in the spring they plant flowers throughout the mountains, which they then use to entice young men to tickle to death. On Pentecost, they hold games, dances, and orgies. And it is at this time that the soul of an unchristened baby can be saved. During the Pentecost holiday, a person can throw up a handkerchief, say a name, and then say, "I baptize you." And a lost soul would then be freed. It is said if a soul remains unsaved for 7 years, it will become a Mavka and go on to haunt the people who killed or abandoned it. The Lisovyk is another creature who has a close association with forests. Generations have believed that when a forest spreads far and wide and contains strong trees and growth, it creates and preserves so much inner energy that it possesses something similar to consciousness and will. And this energy is where the Lisovyk comes from. So there is not one Lisovyk, but there are many. Every forest has its own Lisovyk, and the bigger and stronger the forest, the more powerful the Lisovyk will be. A Lisovyk controls and protects the forest and everything that dwells within it. The trees, the animals, and the birds. And sometimes he will even help a human who enters into his forest. He is known to have appeared before us in many forms, as a human himself, or a giant with horns, as a tree or moss, or an animal. In animal form, he usually poses as a bear, a wolf, or an owl. Each seems strangely appropriate, I think, but one thing is common. No matter which form he takes, there is one way that you can always identify him. The Lisovyk never has a shadow. When he poses as a human, his appearance is particularly distinctive, and it's quite easy to spot. He looks like a short old man with a grey-blue or grey-green skin. And this is really interesting because the older the spirit of the Lisovyk, the greener his skin is. His eyes are big and green. He has no eyebrows or eyelashes, and when he is angered, His eyes change colour to orange. Well, his hair, moustache and beard are all a grey-green sort of a colour, and he has one last distinctive feature. He has only one ear, and you can't miss it either. It is big. It's situated on the left side of his head, and he can hear everything in the forest. He lives a solitary life, and he has absolutely no interest in material things. He's known simply to inhabit caves or deserted shepherd huts, but only when the weather is particularly harsh. These are the places where he has been heard singing and whistling in his own company. All forest animals and spirits are known to obey him, but whether the Lisovyk is your friend or your foe is entirely up to you. Down through the generations, people have shared their knowledge of the do's and the don'ts for to stay on his good side. So here are some do's. Before entering the forest, ask the Lisovyk for permission, and always bring a gift such as a piece of bread which could be left near a tree or on a stump somewhere. Then, if all that goes fine, it is considered safe for you to enter the forest. Once within the forest, if a person was to get lost, they could ask the Lisovyk for help and to give them a sign about the right direction to follow. And those who entered the forest for to cut down trees knew that to avoid angering the Lisovyk, they must only cut old trees and in the cold season. Which brings us to the don'ts. Well, those who cut down young or healthy trees quickly find themselves unwelcome in the forest. He has been known to lead people astray within the forest, and this has proved a death sentence for some. Perhaps not as drastic, but still serious. We must recognize that being unable to enter the forest for fear of the Lisovyk could not only gravely affect someone's livelihood, but also their ability to move around freely and safely from place to place without having to cross paths with the vengeful Lisovyk. So don't harm or disrespect the forest or its animals in any way, be it dumping waste or killing animals for sport. When it comes to the Lisovyk of Ukraine, we best remember that he is immortal. He guards his forest bravely. He is powerful. He is just. He never dies, and he never forgets. Well, feeling safe in the notion that I would never do anything to offend or displease him, I can confidently say that the Lisovyk is one of my favourites. Known as the grandfather of the woods, Chuhayster is a spirit of the Carpathian forests. Sometimes known as the forest man, he is seen as a benevolent giant. He is as tall as the pine trees he protects, and strong enough too to pull a tree right out of the ground. Not that he ever would, of course. He has the appearance of an old man with blue eyes and long hair. He dresses in white clothing, but sometimes is known to go naked, his body being covered in thick hair. Some believe he was once an ordinary man who was bewitched and became a spirit of the Carpathian Mountains. In exchange for his immortality, he must wander through the forest, guarding it from all danger. So it is, Chuhayster quietly roams the dense woods and forests, watching over and protecting the trees and plants and the animals like wolves, lynx and bears. And if they are respectful, he will also watch over the safety of people in the forest, hunters, foragers and woodsmen. With his massive height and strength and hairy appearance, it would be easy to think that an encounter with the Chuhayster would be a terrifying experience. Unlike the protective and vigilant Lisovyk, the Chuhayster of the Carpathian Mountains is at once gentle and kind. He is cheerful and so friendly, in fact, that if encountered, he may play a tune on the flute for you, sing a song, or even ask you to dance. While the Chuhayster is active year-round, given the size of the Carpathian Mountains, it is unlikely that you will accidentally bump into him. But if you want to see him, if you're in danger from an animal or some unseen presence or apparition in the forest, you can get his attention by thumping on a tree 3 times. This serves as a signal, and he will come to you and help you. But if you simply wish to meet the Chuhayster to enjoy his cheerful company, just go into the forest and sing for him. If you're lucky, he will come to you, and together you can sing and dance in the dim light of the dense forest. Those who do cross paths, either accidentally or intentionally, with the Chuhayster, are often better for the experience. He is known for his benevolence and showers people with gifts, like bestowing on you an exceptional talent or new skill, or he may give you the ability to foresee the future in order to manipulate circumstances to your advantage. Now, it is customary for people who depend on the forest for their livelihood to leave a gift of bread and salt up in a tree on branches that are high enough for this giant man to reach with ease. If their gift is gone when they return back to the spot, they know that the Chuhayster has eaten their offering and will protect them from any harmful or trickster spirits in the forest, as well as warn them about bears and other forest predators who might attack. So there's a little bit about the lovely Chuhayster. We find, don't we, with the Mavka, the Lisovyk and the Chuhayster, 3 creatures deeply rooted within the natural landscape of Ukraine. I have 2 more giants of Ukrainian folklore to share with you. But first, if you're enjoying this video, please support the channel by subscribing and hitting that notifications bell too. It's free, it takes a split second to do, and it will mean the world to me. Thank you so much. The Rusalka is a water nymph. Now, groups of these nymphs live at the bottom of rivers and by most accounts are considered to be quite beautiful. They are described as having very long hair and resembling a pretty girl, which I know is a very general description, isn't it? But there's a good reason for that. You see, the Rusalka adapt their appearance to match the particular taste of a man that they're aiming to seduce. For this reason, it is long considered that she represents a universal beauty. Rusalka usually emerge from the depths of their watery homes in spring, at which time they really let loose. Now, most reports of Rusalka tell us that they are naked, covered only by their long hair. while there are more modest descriptions too that suggest they are covered with a light shift of fabric. It is said that they play all night long on the riverbanks, and they swing in the branches, and they run through the grass. They dance and sing Rusalka songs. Their lovely singing, and of course their beautiful appearance, attracts men to come right down to the river's edge. It is from there the Rusalka encourage the men to step into the river. Once in the water, she will entangle the man's feet with her long, long hair and submerge him under the water until he is dead. He might try to grasp at her, but her body is too slippery and he can't cling onto her in any effort to rise or to stay afloat. Some say that the Rusalka laughs as the man drowns. Well, you might be wondering about now why the Rusalka lure men to their watery deaths. Well, there is an element of vengeance here, but it's a general sort of a retribution. You see, Rusalka are said to be the souls of young women who either took their own life or who were violently drowned against their will, either being on account of mistreatment by a man or men. These tragic women are then destined to live out their designated time on earth as Rusalki. Well, this may explain why, come springtime, they lure and drown men. Perhaps they hope for a particular man or men to be lured to the riverside. Sad to say, there is only one way for the Rusalka to be freed from this turmoil and for her spirit to find rest, and that is for her death to be avenged. It's quite heavy, isn't it? But it's not all bad. The Rusalka's dancing and the moisture that they bring with them from the river is believed to promote the growth of nearby rye crops. So that's a bonus for the farmers there, but their visit above the water never lasts long, and they return to their watery homes at the bottom of the river after the first sound of thunder in spring. I feel quite conflicted about the Rusalka. They are clearly very powerful. They're beautiful and captivating, but there is a terrible underlying sadness and tragedy to these water nymphs, a festering sense of injustice. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the Rusalki. I'd love to know your thoughts. The Domovyk. The Domovyk is fascinating. At first glance, it's easy just to write him off as a house elf or a goblin, but he's so much more than that. He is an ancestral spirit who dwells in a home and takes particular care of the family, his family. It is for this reason that he is sometimes referred to as granddad or grandpa. And like all relatives, he can be helpful and kind, or he can be disruptive or annoying. The Domovyk appears as a little man. He's usually about 1 foot tall, and he has shaggy hair covering him from head to toe. The hair can sometimes be grey, sometimes white, and occasionally even dark. Now, just as the older the Lisovyk is, the greener his skin becomes, we find that the happier the Domovyk is, the hairier he becomes. So a contented Domovyk will have thick, long hair absolutely covering his body. His eyes are quite special, as they are said to glow like embers in a fire. always bright and sparkling, but not necessarily red. His eyes can be green or blue and are said to glow in the dark too. Now, occasionally a Domovyk will prefer to be naked, leaving his long hair to cover his body, but most times they choose to wear traditional clothes, loose pants, an embroidered shirt and a woven belt, but never shoes. Now, the charming thing about the appearance of the Domovyk is that because he is a family ancestor, he often bears a resemblance to one or more members of the family. So depending on who he resembles, this could make him extra endearing to the family. Or, on the flip side, this resemblance could be a cause of tension or discomfort. One last thing about his appearance: because he is a spirit, the Domovyk is able to shapeshift and will occasionally appear in the form of something else, something small enough to come into the home, such as a cat or a dog, a bird, or even a rat. As a shapeshifter, he can also dwell in the house invisible. Your only way to detect him and his movements is listening to the sounds that he makes. And as with many spirits and creatures of other realms, many adults are unable to see them in this form, but young children and animals can. So if your child or cat is playing with an imaginary friend, or if you feel a gentle brush or pat on your arm, it could be a sign that the Domovyk is there and bringing peace and protection to your home. The Domovyk is an ancestor spirit. He is the guardian of the hearth, the guardian of the fire, literally and symbolically caring for the family and keeping the family safe. And so it is there at the hearth where he lives, in the center of the home and all its activities. In Ukrainian homes, there was usually a nook, a sort of a shelf above the big stove or fireplace, where they could keep themselves warm and out of the way. But if a home doesn't have a wood-burning fireplace or stove, he might stay in an attic or a cellar or just a quiet corner somewhere. It's a really good idea to accommodate him as best you can and make sure that he is warm and comfortable, because a respected and well-loved Domovyk will guard your home from evil or troublesome spirits and evil or troublesome people. He will let you know if a person will bring trouble to your family. If he senses deceit or bad intention in a visitor, he will turn them away with a slamming door in their face. Or, if they're in the home, he will give you a sign that they have bad intentions toward you by interfering with them, by nudging them, by causing some involuntary movement, knocking something out of their hands or pinching or pricking them. And this is his way of telling you that this person is no good and will harm you if you let them. You definitely don't want an unhappy Domovyk who feels disrespected living under your roof. A disgruntled Domovyk will cause havoc in the home, knocking over furniture, spilling food, slamming doors and making loud cries at night to keep the household awake. If you find yourself in a situation like this, there is something you can do to fix it though. Before you go to bed, go to the center of the home and gently ask the Domovyk out loud why he's unhappy. His answer will come to you in your dreams that night. And in the morning, once you have your answer, go and sit in the kitchen and have a conversation with your Domovyk. Tell him that you will do all you can to make it right. Caring for a Domovyk is fairly easy. Remember, he is an ancestor. He is family, so caring for him should not be done grudgingly. Even if he is ill-tempered or difficult to like, it is in the family's interest to keep him, for a happy Domovyk can lead to a blessed and prosperous home. Well, first, you need to feed him. Domovyk like baked goods, breads and pastries. He likes pancakes and porridge, cooked grains, and even some sweets like lollies or honey, or drinks like milk or sweet tea. But only a little bit. He doesn't need much. And when you leave food out for him near the place where he dwells, say something nice like, "Grandpa, here is a little food for you. Thank you for caring for us." Leave food every few days, at least once a week, and let it stay for no more than 2 days. Never let the food go stale or mouldy. If left untouched, take the food outside and leave it for the plants or the birds. In some homes, it's traditional to give his uneaten food to the pets of the home. Some Domovyk like attention at certain times of the day or night and will grow unhappy if they are ignored. Others might want to be consulted on major family decisions, but most all will not tolerate arguing or conflict in the home, and they do not appreciate laziness or a messy, dirty house. So, if he is showing signs of discontent, ask him what is troubling him and then do your best to rectify the situation. A happy Domovyk is a happy home, and it's worth investing the time and the effort to please him. Remember always that he is a valued member of your family. He is an ancestor, and as such can offer you powerful spiritual protection. The one thing that strikes me as common in all 5 of these fairies from Ukrainian lore is soul, threads of strength, determination and commitment to protect their beautiful land weave through these 5. For me, this speaks to the spirit of the land from which the people are born. This video is a little love letter from me to Ukrainian people everywhere. Until next time, stay curious. Cheerio.